Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Suné. Thank you for being here. I have a big record. I think I'm at about 70% of talking at conferences on the last day and the last session. So, yeah, true to my track record, welcome to the last session. On the program, it's not added, but I had to convince the organizers to put it on my slide, just to add the words land of milk and honey. The software developers have a joke about that, where they say, you know, we want to, or a long time ago, or whatever, we refer to the words the land of milk and honey, and which is effectively a place where you are safe, you are, you know, you can play and work and live without the fear of intrusions and things like that. And also you have all the resources you need. So you have food and water and whatever your plants grow and things like that. So to just draw a parallel from the physical space to the cyberspace, it's effectively the same thing that we want. We want a place with resources and, you know, broadband and everything you would need without the fear of being attacked or being afraid you're not secure and things like that. So I think it's a really cool parallel to draw, but unfortunately also it's very hard to come by. That's why it's something that's really sought after in a sense. So coming back to today. You know, I sat there and counted the technology in this room, and it's not only limited to tablets and phones and laptops, but there's aircons and lights and projectors and things like that. So, you know, we are all intertwined in technology, and for good reason. You know, it connects us, it keeps us safe, it makes our lives easier. And because it's so deeply embedded into our lives, cyberspace. It can also be unsafe in a sense, and you know, get the bad in with the good. And in order for us to strike a balance that it's not only exploited when we use it, just so that it is good for us and not only bad, we must actually go and look at cybersecurity and cyber safety and how to get that in our cyber world. Just as we have burglar bars and alarms, we need to keep our cyber world safe as well. Right, so coming back more locally, cybercrime and cyber attacks, it's a global phenomenon. Right, it's not only here, you find it everywhere where you use technology. The problem for South Africa, and especially in Africa as well, is the fact that we have a rapid increase in how technology, you know, just evolved in the last few decades and so on. And that's largely, you can account that to the increase in bandwidth, use of mobile phones, things like that. And if you can see the quotes there on the side, Kaspersky Lab East Africa said that cybercrime is growing at a faster rate in Africa than anywhere in the world. Right. Malware infections in Africa are higher than the worldwide average from Microsoft Security Report. And that is mostly caused by the fact that we are rapidly growing in technology, but criminals know that. And they know that we are trusting, we are enthusiastic, we are curious in using these technologies, but we are not always aware or, you know, aware of the threats, or we are not aware of how to use this technology in a safe manner. Right. So next, when you look at legislation, awareness, computer literacy, education, those are all factors that would help securing our cyber world. And if you look at the quotes there on the side, a lot of experts say that this is now a problem because these factors that's named here are not keeping up with the technology growth. So you have a rapid technology growth, but legislation and education and awareness and these things aren't keeping up with pace. And that delta is what provides security flaws and makes us vulnerable to security attacks. Right. Research and development, I've especially listened throughout this conference, is a big emphasis placed on that, which is really a really important factor in cybersecurity space as well. So in order to make governments and us individuals and industry and all these people safer, right? We need R&D in cybersecurity. We need the development of innovative tools and techniques, and we need enhancement in skills especially in order to create a safer cyber environment. Right. So the biggest problem that we look at CSIR in my department is the fact that people, especially at universities as well, they create cyber tools and techniques. They build new tools or a firewall or a whatever, but the testing environment side is very difficult because one, they can actually test it in a real network, which the university wouldn't allow me to do because it's a risk. If I test my cyber tool on a real live network, you actually stand a chance to compromise the network stability, and you can actually then create larger vulnerabilities in a live network. So for a company who wants to deploy a safety check or a new safety tool, it's a big risk for them to actually go and implement it or test it in that matter on their live network because they can actually compromise their live networks. So normally what would have happened is that you have large testing infrastructure, which is extremely costly, and that was actually limited to people with big budgets and big cyber or big server rooms. But with the advancement of visualization and computing technology, we can now actually simulate and emulate these networks really, really effectively on your hardware. So where you used one computer in the past to represent one computer, now you use one hardware computer and you can actually create 50, 20, 200, 400 real other computers on that one physical computer. So you just take away the hardware, but the inside works exactly the same. And with this technology, you can now actually create huge networks on your rack of servers where you can actually, you run all the applications that's running on it. You plug in certain users that would use these networks. You actually create a real replica of your real network, and then you go and do your tests on the virtual counterpart. And what this means is that if you have a flaw, if you introduce a flaw into your network, if you want to see how safe your network is and you launch a few attacks, you just do it on the virtual one, which means that you never compromise your real network. And that is what we want to do with large-scale network emulation, is to create virtual counterparts and just do all the tests on them, creating your real network safe. Right. So the CSIR is in the process of building a range of large-scale network emulation systems. And the thing, I actually touched on this as well. What you can actually do is you build these virtual counterparts. You can do network performance testing. Where's my bottlenecks in my network? Where would a router or a firewall or a switch not be able to handle the traffic I want to send through it? I'm building an expansion on my network. Before plugging in stuff in my real network, I plug it into the virtual network. See if it works, see if it doesn't work. Right. Cyber tools and techniques. We get a lot of students, they build some kind of new secure routing protocol or a firewall, things like that. And I remember when I was a student, nobody allowed me to do anything on the university's network. They gave me a few computers there in the corner which nobody used, and you must build your 3-unit network. and you test it on there. And the problem with that is it's not a realistic environment. So you sit with an environment, and your tool works fine on the 3-unit network. But when you try to implement it in a larger network, it fails. And with the fact that you create a real or close as possible as realistic replica, and you test it on there, you can actually now really develop tools that is so much further along. Right, and the last one is network equipment testing, where if you want a new router or you want a new firewall or whatever you want to implement in your network, you implement it on your virtual counterpart first. You can configure it. You can see if it works, and things like that. And if it works, great. You go and plug it into your real network. So that's the kind of things that we can now do. Right. As I said, research and development in a safe environment where it can assist researchers in study and also address the security weaknesses that we face. So we can do real research in a replicated environment, and then as soon as we see, right, now it works, now it's safe, and then we can go and transfer it into the real environment. Right, just one example I want to speak about is in collaboration with the Department of Science and Technology, we built the Network Emulation and Simulation Lab, or we're in the process of building it. And this lab is focused on providing these emulation possibilities to students at the universities without the burden of keeping stuff updated and having to house hardware and things like that. So it's web accessible. We host it at the CSIR. The only thing that students have to do is log onto the website, and they can actually utilize our emulation platform that sits at the university. They can also come in and use the traffic generators and all of these security type stuff. We have databases with strikes and malware and things like that, and integrating that into their tool or technique that they are developing. So that's great and for students testing things, but we can also do, I said there, large-scale cybersecurity testing, where you can actually go and put down a whole network. You can put down your company's financial system network. Right, you replicate it. You can see what happens if this and this and this scenario may happen. And you can actually go and test and see how would it, how would your network respond. And yeah, that's my story. So keeping us safe in the real world is the focus of some people, but we also live in a cyber world, and we want to keep ourselves safe there as well. And I'm not going to buy an alarm system that they're going to test for the first time when they come and install it in my house. I know when I buy that system it's secure, and it's exactly the same thing. So it must be tested in an environment where you can be sure that it will work. Right, so the CSIR, with these large-scale emulation platforms, we want to assist R&D development in cybersecurity. We want to advance the cyber knowledge base through original research, as well as providing top quality graduates in the field of cybersecurity. And that's my story. So we want to create a safe cyber living space as well. Thank you so much.